Imagine standing on a battlefield where thousands of soldiers are too afraid to move. A giant walks forward, over 9 feet tall, covered in bronze armor, holding weapons so massive most men could barely lift them. And then, out of nowhere, a young shepherd boy steps into the valley. No armor, no sword, no chance. At least, that's what everyone thought, because by the end of that day, the giant would fall, and history would never be the same. This is the story of David and Goliath. Long ago, in the land of Israel, 2 armies stood facing each other across a wide valley. On one side were the Israelites, and on the other were the Philistines. For days, both armies waited. No one attacked, no one moved. Because this war had become something much worse than battle, it had become fear. Every morning and every evening, a giant named Goliath walked down into the valley. He was enormous. His armor gleamed in the sun. His spear looked like a tree trunk, and his voice shook the air itself. He would shout across the battlefield, challenging them to send one man to fight him. If he won, Israel would serve the Philistines. If he lost, they would serve Israel. One man, one fight, winner takes all. But there was one problem. No one wanted to face him. Not the strongest soldier, not the bravest warrior, not even King Saul himself. Because when fear becomes loud enough, even powerful men begin to feel small. And for 40 days, Goliath came back again and again, mocking them, humiliating them, and breaking their spirit. Far from the battlefield lived a boy named David. He wasn't a soldier or a warrior. He was just a shepherd. While armies trained for battle, David spent his days in the hills watching over sheep. His life was quiet and simple, but it was also preparing him for something greater. When wild animals attacked his flock, he didn't run, he fought. A lion came and David stood his ground. A bear came and still he refused to back down. But more than his courage, David had something else: faith. He trusted God deeply, and that trust would soon make all the difference. One day, his father asked him to take food to his brothers who were serving in the army. So David packed the supplies and made his way toward the battlefield, thinking he was just delivering food, not realizing he was walking into destiny. When David arrived at the camp, he immediately felt the tension. Soldiers stood around with fear in their eyes, and whispers filled the air. Then he heard it, the booming voice of Goliath echoing across the valley. David ran forward and saw the giant for the first time. As Goliath shouted his challenge, the soldiers of Israel stepped back in fear once again. David couldn't believe what he was seeing. Men with swords were trembling, warriors were silent, and no one was willing to fight. So David asked a question no one else dared to ask. Who is this man that he should defy the armies of the living God? While everyone else saw how big Goliath was, David saw how small he was compared to God. But not everyone appreciated David's courage. His older brother became angry and accused him of being foolish. Some soldiers laughed, others ignored him. But David couldn't ignore what was happening. A giant was mocking his people and his God, and no one was standing up to him. So David made a bold decision. He said he would fight the giant. Soon, word reached King Saul, and David was brought before him. Saul looked at the young boy and doubted him immediately. David was small, inexperienced, and unarmed, while Goliath was a trained warrior from his youth. By every human standard, David had no chance. But David's confidence didn't come from himself. It came from God. He told Saul about the times he had protected his sheep from lions and bears, and how God had delivered him every time. He believed that the same God would deliver him again. Seeing his faith, Saul finally agreed and told him to go, praying that God would be with him. Saul tried to prepare David for battle by giving him his own armor, a bronze helmet, a heavy coat, and a sword. But when David tried to walk, he could barely move. The armor was too heavy and unfamiliar, so David took it off. He understood something important. He didn't need to fight like a king. He needed to fight like himself. Instead of armor and weapons, David chose what he knew best. He picked up his shepherd's staff, a sling, and 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream. That was it. To everyone watching, it looked foolish. A boy with stones against a giant warrior. But what seemed weak to others was about to reveal true strength. Then came the moment that would change everything. David walked into the valley alone. No army behind him, no protection. Just a shepherd boy facing a giant. When Goliath saw him, he laughed. He mocked David and insulted him, asking if he was a dog that someone would send a boy with sticks to fight him. He cursed him and threatened to destroy him. But David didn't stop. He didn't hesitate. Instead, he responded with confidence, declaring that while Goliath came with swords and spears, he came in the name of the Lord. He said that everyone would know that there is a God in Israel. At that moment, the battle was no longer about strength. It was about faith. Goliath charged forward, shaking the ground beneath him. But instead of running away, David ran toward him. He took a stone, placed it in his sling, spun it, and released it. The stone flew through the air with incredible speed and struck Goliath directly in the forehead. The giant froze, staggered, and then fell face first to the ground. Silence filled the battlefield. No one moved, no one spoke. The giant who had terrified an entire army for 40 days was defeated by a single stone. Then everything changed. The Philistines were shocked, and fear took over them. The Israelites, who had been frozen in fear, suddenly found courage. They charged forward as the enemy fled. Victory had come from the most unexpected place. But the greatest victory that day wasn't just over a giant. It was over fear, doubt, and impossibility. This story still matters today because everyone faces giants in their life. Fear, failure, pressure, rejection, and problems that seem too big to overcome. But David's story reminds us that you don't need to be the strongest to win. Sometimes all it takes is faith, courage, and the willingness to step forward when no one else will. Because one small action backed by belief can change everything.